gang. Bring them up.
Here we go. History in the making. Green, green, green.
Kyle Larson just misses a weekend sweep at Homestead, but his Cup owner has the top 3 in points, going to possibly their best track. Hi, this is Brett McMillan. You're listening to the Pit Reporters. With me this week, Jamie Little from Fox Sports and Chris Knight from CatchFence.com.
Welcome to the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network. And now, here's your host, Brett McMillan.
And welcome to the show. Glad to have Chris and Jamie here. And boy, Jamie, things went almost according to the way we thought they were going to at Homestead, except for that late caution. And I can't feel too bad about the way the Xfinity race finished, because finally Justin Allgaier got a win in a race that he probably didn't deserve because he had enough go the other way.
Yes, that's perfectly said. I mean, going into Homestead, it was like all eyes on Larson, right? Of course, he's doing the sweep. Like, he's hoping to get that broom out actually and carry it into victory lane. And the way that things were going on Friday night during the truck race, it was like, I don't know if this is going to start off so well. And of course, he did Kyle Larson things. He spun, he wins, and moves into the Xfinity Series race, which, did he have a 17-second lead with like 7 laps to go? And then, of course, we saw what happened. Allgaier goes on to win, and the sweep idea is over. But then he comes back and rebounds on Sunday in a fascinating win for him. A great battle between him and his teammate. Homestead never disdisappoints.
He kind of ruined this whole B thing, though, Chris. We had the B's
Yes,
going for the start of the season. I guess maybe we started an L thing, so maybe Logano's up next or something. I don't know.
Are sure we can't switch the L for B this week and just get away with it? Like, look, I think going into Homestead, knowing that Kyle Larson was going to run triple duty, we figured he was going to be a threat. And I'm with Jamie that for a while I wasn't sure he could get it done in trucks. And awfully, I think he has to thank Corey Hine for his issues that he had during the truck race for him getting the win. On Saturday, I don't know, Sam Mayer was already headed to Martinsville the way he had Kyle Larson jacked up on that last restart, which ultimately provided, the opportunity for Justin Allgaier to get the win. But I think if you ask Kyle Larson what's more important, winning on Sunday or winning all three, I guarantee you that he's going to take winning on Sunday. And, maybe, Alex Bowman was overdriving the car and he made a mistake, there's a lot of pressure on Alex Bowman, and he made a mistake getting into the wall, right, late in the race, and Kyle Larson took advantage of it. But it's like Jamie said, Kyle Larson's world, and we're just all living in it.
Well, yeah, especially a track like Homestead. I mean, and it's hard to believe that was his first win at Homestead.
In a while.
Kind of, in
a while. He has one win previous year, but we expect Kyle Larson. You would think that he has multiple wins the way he runs there, but just for whatever reason, I think sometimes, and I think Jamie will agree, sometimes he beats himself.
Yeah, well, he talked about it in pre-race on Fox. He was like, caution flags at this place haunt me in my dreams. Like, every time I'm in the lead, I'm just waiting for it to happen, because it's happened to him, I think, more there than any place. And I really feel like Homestead, though, if you go back to the beginning of Kyle Larson, Homestead put him on the map with Chip Ganassi Racing. What this kid was able to do, we all went, wow. He is special. And like, to your point, to say he'd only won one time in the Cup Series there, he won in the Xfinity Series too. But as well as he runs, as many laps as he's led around that place, you would have thought he's got 3 or 4 wins by now.
And there's just something like, there's drivers that can run that high line, but to run the Kyle Larson line, nobody can seem to do it but himself on a consistent basis, lap after lap after lap. I mean, I watched, I know Jamie was there, and just watching the tapes and listening to the other drivers and watching the race itself, like, nobody could master that line like Kyle Larson can, lap after lap. And that just says something about his ability, and not only at places like a Homestead, but there's other tracks where we see him do it at.
Well, the thing is, you look at his car, even before the race even starts, coming out of practice, and the right side of the car is already scraped up, Jamie, before the race even starts.
Yes, I was in the garage that morning on Sunday morning, and I'm waiting to talk to Cliff Daniels because I was covering Larson in the race, and he was too busy. He was underneath the race car. They were rewrapping the right side of that car, which, granted, there were a lot of cars that had damage like that, but not to the extent of Kyle. And it's just a thing. Like, nobody's going to tell him, back it down. Like, you hear a lot of crew chiefs telling their driver, keep it off the wall, just be more conservative, run close, but don't get up on it. Larson, no, nobody tells Larson what to do. Like, he runs that line. It is amazing to watch it go down. I was in the booth for the truck race. Obviously, it was drivers only. And when it was over, Joey Logano was so real. He's like, damn, that guy is just so good. It's frustrating.
That
sums
speaks volumes.
Sums it up.
Yeah, when you're series champion, says, yeah, that says a lot. And then the thing is, you look, Kyle Larson, you feel like he hasn't made a lot of noise so far this year. That's his first win, but there he is sitting second in points, Chris.
Yeah, it's another thing. It's just how Kyle Larson does it, right? So he'll fly under the radar for most of the things, but then we'll start. I think we're getting into some tracks. I don't know, Martinsville this week coming up. It'll be interesting. It's not one of his favorite short tracks, but he seems to get better and better every time we seem to go there. But in places like Darlington, Bristol, Talladega, even, I know he has horrible luck on the super speedway races. I think his luck will change when we get there. But the part of the season that we're getting ready to enter is a part of the season where Kyle Larson can really make a name for himself as far as putting himself as much ahead of the game with as much points as possible. Because certainly he has to do that, and we're getting close to the time where he's going to be worrying about Indy as much as he is Charlotte. So I'm curious to see if that team can keep the momentum alive. But I was super impressed by Alex Bowman. He wasn't somebody I had on my cards for Sunday. And even though he won the pole, I'm like, okay, Alex Bowman's done that before. But for him to have an outstanding race like he did, I think he woke up a lot of people just to think of what maybe we can see from that 48 car in the coming weeks.
I thought it was interesting, Jamie, that after the race, Jeff Gordon really went to the mat for Alex Bowman and basically said, people need to get off of him. People need to go give him a hard time. He's our guy. And this is an example of how good he is as a driver.
Yeah, Alex Bowman is one of those guys. He's so under the radar. And toward the end of last season, somebody had put out a report that, his job was in jeopardy. And there was question as to who was going to be in the 48. Was it Alex Bowman? And this was circulating. Well, Hendrick came out, Rick himself, and said, Alex is our guy. That is not true. He is our guy. And I feel like Alex is always having to defend himself and give people reason to say that he's worthy of that ride. But he's just not a loud driver. We don't see a lot from him. He's got that dry sense of humor, and he kind of keeps to himself. But he is one of those, you mentioned Kyle kind of quietly up there in second. Well, you look at what Bowman has done this year. He is the only driver that has 5 top 10s to start the first 6 races of the year. Their consistency is there, and it's just a matter of time before they go to victory lane. I think the 48 is going to be one to contend with as we move on throughout the season and perhaps into the playoffs.
There isn't a thing that Jamie said that I don't agree with, and in fact, I'll put a capitalization. What is that? Is that exclamation point? Thank you. On top of but this is how Alex Bowman started his season last year. He had a lot of consistency, and then they got through the middle of the season, and they were kind of wonky up and down, and then they came back. He got the big win in Chicago. But I feel like that Alex Bowman continues to have to answer for himself, like Jamie said. Even this season, I felt like going into the Daytona 500, he was still having to answer these questions. And I think that Alex Bowman is one of these guys that flies under the radar, like Jamie says, and he will answer the critics with his performance. And I think Sunday was a testament to that. I think it's only the start of it. And Jamie's right. He's the most consistent. We all like to think Chase Elliott maybe has been the most consistent, but if you look at the statistics show that Alex Bowman and that 48 car, he's on top of their money right now. And I think as long as Ally has a say in it, Alex Bowman isn't going anywhere.
Well, right now he's third in points, just 3 behind Kyle Larson, who's in second. I mean, that speaks volumes about the consistency you guys have talked about, what Alex Bowman's done so far this year. When we come back, I want to talk about the guy besides Kyle Larson who really dominated the race at Homestead before he picked up his 3rd straight DNF. This guy needs to put his socks on in a different order or get out of bed on a different side. Nothing's going right for Ryan Blaney right now. Stay with us.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive, and I'm here to tell you why you should shop Echo Park before you buy a car, truck, or SUV. Over half of inventory at Echo Park is priced below $25,000, and car for car, truck for truck. Echo Park Automotive's pricing is $3,000 less than the competition. Maybe that's why Echo Park has over 95,000 5-star reviews. Echo Park Automotive is built to make sure you drive away happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
It's not about the cars, the speed, the action. It's not about the party or the long weekend. It's about them, the ones that gave everything. This Memorial Day weekend, we honor the fallen at America's Home for Racing.
The 66th running of the Coca-Cola 600.
Lenny Baticki brings you PRN at the Track every week here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Whether it's skating around the racetrack on a set of rollerblades or turning laps in a Legends car, join JC Fickenshire on JC's Garage.
All it takes is one win, and that one win can completely clear the driver's mind. I could even see it happening if Todd Gilliland wins a race or Noah Gragson wins a race, Zane Smith wins a race. These guys are guys who are just searching for one win, one chance.
JC's Garage, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey, it's Charlie and Debbie, along with NASCAR legend Kyle Petty, inviting you to join us for Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown.
Each week, we'll put it in reverse and take a trip down memory lane, looking back at that week's top 20 country songs from years past.
We'll dive into what made those songs and artists move the needle, what pop culture trends made those years unique.
And you'll get to hear me tell stories only I can tell.
So don't miss Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown right here each week.
Brett McMillan returns with more of the Pit Reporters here on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back on with Chris Knight from CatchFence.com, Jamie Little from Fox Sports. I'm Brett McMillan. Glad to have you with us. Remember how good Ryan Blaney was, not close he came to winning Homestead last fall before Tyler Reddick blew past him at the end of the race. He was even better at Homestead this time, Chris, until the engine let go. It would have been interesting to see if he could have given Kyle Larson a run for his money at the end, but this is 3 straight weeks now for Blaney.
What do you got to do to get the monkey off your back, right? I mean, I haven't seen an engine blow like that since the 1990s. Maybe a little bit later, but it just reminds you of blow from that era. And what can you do if you're Blaney? I mean, you just have to just say, oh, well, like, thanks for giving me a good car, boys. And that's exactly what he did. He's like, well, guess today wasn't our day again. And thanks for giving me a good car. The tide will turn for Ryan Blaney. And I just hope it comes sooner than later because it's got to be killing him to have as strong cars as he has and been able to show nothing for it.
This is the kind of guy this is the time, Jamie, where drivers say, well, as long as I got a fast car, I know we're going to be okay. But after 3 straight weeks of this, that starts to sound shallow, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I talked to Jonathan Hassler and Ryan on Sunday, and in the hauler talking to Jonathan, he's like, you know, the saving grace is that our cars have been so good. They led 170 laps on the season going in. Actually, I'm not sure that's right, but they had led laps in multiple races going into that final or that race on Sunday. So they felt like, you know, we're hitting our stride. Our cars are good, but we're just having issues. And obviously they had lost that engine. They thought that was behind them. And then boom, they drop out on Sunday. And it's like, what do you do now? Now Ryan's going to be, you can only imagine that he's going to be behind the wheel thinking, okay, what's going to happen now? Am I going to lose a wheel? Is it mechanical? Like I'm hearing things, guys. Is something happening? Because he's got PTSD right now with these things happening. I mean, you look at his results, 19th, 28th, 35th, 36th, the last 4 weeks.
Is that concerning that he's had 2 engine problems in the last 3 races? When was the last time we've seen that happen? And it's not happening to anybody else on the Team Penske organization. It's happening to Ryan Blaney. Like, are the red flags already up? I think they are. Like, it's so rare to have an engine problem in the Cup Series as it is, but to have 2 out of the last 3 weeks is just mind-blowing to me.
What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, especially for Roush Yates, right? You just don't see that. The one thing that's come to mind is well, is he getting the better engines? Like, why is he having the issues? Why isn't Austin having the issues? Why isn't Joey having the issues? It's crazy and it's unique, and I'm sure they're going to get to the bottom of it, and probably almost guarantee we'll never see that happen again this year. But what happens? Do they back it down a little bit? I mean, you just don't know. It's just one of those things. Ryan's got a lot of fans out there. They're not going to put up with that for much longer. And, Ryan had such a good attitude about it. He got out of the car in his pit box, and I put a microphone in front of him, and like, he just, he's down, but he's not out. And he had nothing but great things for his team and what they had accomplished up to that point.
I think, Brett, that there's more challengers this year going to be fighting for those playoff spots, that Ryan Blaney and that number 12 team, Penske team, can't afford to have too many more bad races. They're losing out on so many opportunities to get not only more stage points, but obviously get more points on the board as a whole, that if you look back, that if something happens when push comes to shove and we get to Daytona in August, Ryan Blaney, you could look back and say this stretch of races could ultimately affect the way Ryan Blaney sets in the playoffs. I think it can.
It's interesting, and I know that they said when he had the tire problems at Las Vegas during practice, they kind of felt like maybe their setup may have been a little aggressive and may have contributed to the problem. So it's going to be interesting to see how things all play out. Another thing that came up during the race at Homestead, Jamie, was the pit road issues. We saw a couple of spins on pit road. There's been a lot of talk this week about, the pit road's too narrow. Should NASCAR do something about the pit road? And I know that this week on Sirius, NASCAR said, look, as far as we know, there's no plan to do anything about the pit road. And even Joey Logano said, I don't even think it's the most narrow pit road we go to. That's probably Gateway. What do you do at this point in time? I think structurally it's hard to even think about redoing a pit road or moving a wall out. Do you move the pit wall back? Do you move the wall between the pit road and the wall and the track out, which reduces the racing surface? There's a lot to be considered there if you can even try to make any changes at all.
There is, but that's been the same pit road for how many years have we been racing? Back to the 90s. I mean, I don't know if that's the cure-all, but one thing that's been floated around out there that everybody's talking about is, are we going back to Homestead for the championship race next year? And if that happens, are we going to see a renovation? I heard today there might be a renovation project that might last 16 months. So will that be part of the plans? I don't know, but I'm sure they're going to take a hard look at it. And hey, if I could just throw this idea out there, if they're going to expand pit lane itself, can we expand the pit area behind? It is so jam-packed down there. Watching these tire guys trying to push these tires through, fans are down there, the team's trying to do their job. It is tight. They've got a fence there. So if they can expand that and help us out, expand pit lane for the drivers, that'd be great. But you know what? I mean, pit road issues, it's nothing new. It's going to continue. And I think we're going to see this trend as things get worse because there's so much pressure on these pit crews. These cars are so identical that the only way they're really making up time aside from starts and restarts is on pit road. And with that, you're going to see these teams accelerating, busting out 9-second stops consistently. But on the flip side, you're going to see a lot of these wheels being lost, coming off, being loose, and you're going to see collisions on pit road because everybody is pushing as hard as they can. I think more so than ever before.
And to add to what Jamie said, I think there's a reason that we went to Homestead so early in the season. So to add what Jamie's saying, I'm hearing the same rumors. I was told that that's why we went to Homestead so early, because there is a potential plan in the works. So, to answer everybody's question why we went to Homestead, because many were questioning why we went back to Homestead so early. So if what Jamie said and what I've heard, it comes to fruition, that's why. But I will add to what Jamie said about pit road. She's right. We've been going there since the late 1997 was, I think, the first race there, 96, 97. And that pit road hasn't changed, but it's an element of the race, right? You have to execute perfectly, not only on the racetrack, but on pit road. And if how many times have we seen it become an issue more than just Homestead, or how many other series where drivers and competitors have issues on pit road? I think I don't think NASCAR needs to do anything. In my opinion, it's part of the game. And to have a flawless race means you have to have a flawless race both on the actual racetrack and on pit road.
Well, our pit reporter's question this week is, about pit road. It's should NASCAR mandate a minimum width of pit roads? Yes or no? See what you think. Jamie says no. Chris says no. There's 2 votes for no. So if you're in favor of it, you better make it up fast. All right. Last week we asked you, who is the next first-time winner? 62% said it's Carson Hocevar. 21% said Ty Gibbs. 17% said Ryan Preece. John Henry Nemechek was on the board and got no love at all.
None?
None.
0?
0.
Wow.
No love at all for John Hunter Nemechek. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about Homestead as a potential return to the finale. There had been a press conference scheduled for last week that was then canceled. Should it go back to Homestead? Stay with us.
We work hard to keep our cars looking great on the outside, but engine components need our attention too. That's where you can trust Z-Max Micro Lubricant to disperse carbon buildup in your engine and fuel system to keep your car or truck running at its peak. By soaking into the metal of your engine, Z-Max Micro Lubricant improves performance, extends engine life, and reduces emissions. Trust the many customers who've said, "Thanks for saving my engine." Find out more at zmax.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, this is PRN's Brett McMillan. You don't spend your life just sitting around, so what you need is PRN's mobile app. By downloading the mobile app, you can listen to our live race broadcast from anywhere. Make sure you don't miss a second of the action from the track. If you download it today, you get station listening and on-demand access to your favorite studio shows like Fast Talk, Pit Reporters, or Garage Pass. Get all the latest racing information at your fingertips with the PRN mobile app. Download today. Available at the Apple App Store and on Google Play.
Doug Rice is your host for Fast Talk every week on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, this is Brett McMillan. If you want a show with no limits on opinions, join us each week for the Pit Reporters.
It proves that these guys are of the elite motorsports level. Being able to win the way that he did, I think means even more, that there weren't any fenders being put to anybody. And for those guys to show what they can do, to race cleanly, on a road course, they've certainly proved what they can do.
We're starting to see the top competitors become top road course racers.
Join us each week for the Pit Reporters.
It's not about the cars, the speed, the action. It's not about the party or the long weekend. It's about them, the ones that gave everything. This Memorial Day weekend, we honor the fallen at America's Home for Racing.
The 66th running of the Coca-Cola 600.
We're back with more of the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
Hey, race fans, head over to echopark.com/speedway and you can enter for a chance to win a Toyota Tundra plus a brand new Thor camper. Visit echopark.com/speedway now and you can drive off a winner. Welcome back to the Pit Reporters, along with Jamie Little from Fox Sports and Chris Knight from CatchFence.com. Brett McMillan, glad to have you with us. We were talking about it a little bit in the last segment, Jamie, that Homestead potentially could be the side of finale in 2026. There had been a press conference scheduled for last week that was called off. Been some rumblings because the city council has not approved funding. You're hearing about possibly a 16-month renovation. Do you like the idea of the finale going back to Homestead?
I do, 100%. We went there for so many years where it was part of the championship race. My 8 years with ESPN, we celebrated the champion there every year, and it was amazing. It's just the vibe in Miami. You guys know, I mean, yes, it's a 35-minute drive from Miami, but that vibe down there in South Florida, that race, the racing that you get no matter what you're doing down there. I've covered Indy cars, Xfinity, trucks, Cup. They're all amazing. It's just the way that that track has worn out. It's the way that it's been built. The colors at the racetrack is just very unique, and it's such a great place. I think we need to go back. I think the drivers are fans of going back. So if they do the renovation, yes, clean up the pit road, the area that we talked about, maybe the garages, but leave the racetrack alone, please.
Just feels right, right? Like, I always felt like when we went there, it felt right to end the season. Everything that Jamie said, the vibe was great, the fan turnout was phenomenal, the racing was exceptional, and you never knew what was going to happen in those races. And that's what I mean, granted, I appreciate everything that Phoenix has done, but I just don't. I was talking about this with some of my colleagues over the weekend. We just don't get that same vibe when we go to Phoenix that we do in Homestead, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Yeah, we're gracious to go to Phoenix and we'll race there if it's the finale, but Homestead just provided an element, and I think we cater to so many different markets when we go to Homestead-Miami Speedway. It just feels right, and so I am stoked if the rumors turn out to be true and then we go back there because it just feels right. And what I love about Homestead, because I see this every year, is you could be great at the beginning of the race, but once that sun goes down and the track changes, the comers and goers in the race is just everything that you want in a race, right? And so I really hope that we get to go back there. I love Homestead. I wish we had many more tracks like it.
Make it a night race.
Make it a night race.
Yeah.
Well, by virtue of the fact that it's going to be probably after daylight savings time, it's going to at least end up under the lights, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That's how it always was, right? To Chris's point. You'd start in the daylight and you'd have all these guys running up front. They're so solid, but you're like, are they making adjustments? Because that's where it's at. Whoever can keep up with the track, by the end, things are going to be completely different. And, it's so fun to cover a race there, to watch a race. There's just a lot to stay on top of. And it's the perfect recipe, I think, for a championship.
And it's a great place to end this. Like, when you want to, everybody wants to detune, and it's a perfect place to get away. Everybody, the amount of people, that race fans and the people within the industry that took the Monday or Tuesday drive over to Key West and just got to talk about how great the season was. That was just fun for me, in my opinion. It's been great to go to Phoenix all these last years, but I think we're due for a change, and I don't think there'd be a single person, maybe with the exception of a few, that wouldn't mind going back to Homestead.
Well, one of the criticisms of Homestead has been, and Chris, you brought it up, and Jamie, get your reaction to it, is it's 35 minutes from Miami. That's one. Number two is there is so much going on in Miami already that it gets lost in kind of the mix of everything else going on there. Do you feel like that's a valid criticism?
No.
I don't think so. I think you want to be where the people are. Where's the media? It's a major market. I think we need to have a championship race in a major city. And, I throw Las Vegas out there too. I know that's always been floated around. We've never done that. Why can't we bounce this championship race around to major cities? I don't want to go somewhere that's small because I don't think that does us any justice or helps grow the sport, right? It was like we did the championship celebration in New York for all those years. Well, there was one reason we did it, because it was the #1 city in the country. You had so many media outlets where you're getting all the news stories about NASCAR and who their champion is beyond the walls of racing fans. And I think Miami does that beautifully. All weekend long, I met fans from probably 6, 7 different countries this weekend. Some of them, it was their first ever race, because it's a destination. People want to go to Miami, and what a cool place to watch. The weather's going to be good. Might have to deal with some showers here and there, but the weather is great. There's plenty of media. You're going to get the storylines out of that city.
And if the renovations do come to fruition, people are going to love that, and they flock to that, right? And it'll be guaranteed, I think, sellout. If the renovations, it's guaranteed to pack that place when we go back there. Everybody's been craving it. Everybody's been wanting it. Let's just do it.
All right, we'll have to see if that happens. Like I said, the word was there was a press conference last week. Didn't happen. Chris, you were saying during the break that apparently there had been something on the website promoting the season finale last year, but it's off the website now.
There were some rumblings. I don't know if Jamie heard this, but there were some rumblings that the Homestead-Miami Speedway website had been putting up their ticket renewals for 2026, and it had the finale on there. And then, of course, as soon as people started tweeting it, it got taken down. So I didn't get a chance to see it myself, but I heard it from some other colleagues. So we'll see. It's been talked about for almost a year now, right? So I'd be utterly shocked if we didn't go back to Homestead to end the 2026 season.
Don't you love it when the promotion department gets ahead of the marketing department, Jamie?
I heard the same exact thing, and I just shook my head like, oh my gosh.
It's like,
Well, hey, nothing like a tease like that, right?
Right.
exactly right. All right, when we come back, it has been an interesting start of the season for some people and a real challenging start for some others. We're now past the 3-race stretch where people said we're going to know what we have. So do we know what everybody has? Stay with us.
Hey, this is Michael Walter for Echo Park Automotive, and I'm here to tell you why you should shop Echo Park before you buy a car, truck, or SUV. Over half the inventory at Echo Park is priced below $25,000. And car for car, truck for truck, Echo Park Automotive's pricing is $3,000 less than the competition. Maybe that's why Echo Park has over 100,000 5-star reviews. Echo Park Automotive is built to make sure everyone drives away happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
Imagine the roar of the engines, the smell of burnt rubber, the electrifying energy of the crowd. It feels like America. It's the Food City 500 NASCAR Weekend, April 11th through the 13th. It's racing the way it ought to be. This year, it's a triple-header weekend with the thrill of trucks, Xfinity, and Cup racing packed into 3 heart-pounding days. Visit BristolMotorspeedway.com for tickets and details.
Catch Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown with Charlie and Debbie here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Start your engine! Reddick goes right to the bottom of the racetrack. Chastain tries to hold on the outside.
Truex on the inside, Byron in the middle, Chastain up high.
Hamlin now beginning to come to the front. He's got the edge now. He'll take the lead away.
Brian Blaney sliding down into the grass. There was a lot of bumping and grinding, and Blaney noses into the infield retaining wall.
Ross Chastain doing a great job. Truex right there, big in his mirror as they race down the backstretch here. Harrison Burton is spinning down the back straightaway. Everybody going to the top side. Here comes Kyle Larson. Larson dives to the bottom of the racetrack. He wants to lead all 4.
Chris Buescher has the advantage and a spin off of turn 4.
Yeah, we've got a ton of cars that are in this one, and Larson is certainly one of those cars.
Trouble coming out of turn 4. Hamlin is sideways. The car spins down on the apron of the racetrack.
Byron takes that brightly painted number 24 to the front. He gets a big shove from Daniel Suarez.
This is PRN.
About some of the teams we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now. You know, it's funny because I was talking to folks in Atlanta. I mean, it's been a weird schedule just from the get-go, kind of an anomaly of some sorts, Chris, because when you talk about starting with 2 super speedways and then going to a road course, some guys who struggle with super speedways and road courses were going to get off to a slow start this year. But the crews, I know, especially in Atlanta, we're going, when we get through the stretch of Phoenix, Las Vegas, Homestead, we're going to know what we have.
Yep.
Well, now you got to be looking at guys like Brad Keselowski sitting 30th in points, and Noah Gragson sitting 32nd in points, thinking, okay, do you really know what you have now, and can you be happy with it?
I think there's some people are real happy with what they have, and then I think that there are others that they're scratching their head. We talked about this during the break that, Ty Gibbs and that 54 team has just been out of the picture. And we, they showed a lot of speed this past weekend in practice and qualifying, but unfortunately they weren't able to transition that into the race. And I think it's been since last year, the fall of last year, since they've even had a top 15, top 20 finish. And even Joey Logano, we're 6 races in, and he's still searching for his top 10, his first top 10 finish of the year. And even Keselowski is a head scratcher because you see Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher running solidly week after week. But Brad, some of it, I think he said, during this past weekend at Homestead, some of it was his own doing, just being at the wrong place at the wrong time or making mistakes that put him in a position to get in trouble. But there's some people you wondering, okay, we're getting close to the summer stretch, here knocking on the door here pretty soon, and they're in a hole. And is that hole too deep to climb out of?
Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great list. That's exactly who I had on my list. I would add Kyle Busch to that, even though he had a great run at Circuit of the Americas. It's not the Kyle Busch we expect. It's not where we expect that team to continue running. I mean, his first year with RCR, he went out and knocked out 3 wins in a row. And then last year, we all know he was winless. And I think the frustration is mounting over there. They're doing everything they possibly can, but it's like if they bring a fast race car, then they have trouble on pit road with their pit crew. And, if they nail that, then Kyle Busch makes a mistake. It's just all of these things. That is one driver that I feel like has a lot more potential. We're going to see more from him. Keselowski, I just don't get that. To your point, Chris, like I keep thinking about that. How is Buescher and Preece? I mean, Preece has 2 top 10s in a row. They're off to a great start for the season, but Brad just can't find his way. So I think there's a lot of things that are going to be figured out as we go here. And I'm sure Brad is not going to stay down there for long. But yeah, that's a great point. We got off, I mean, the racing, 2 drafting tracks, and then you have Circuit of the Americas and then Phoenix and a couple of 1.5 mile tracks. So there's guys digging themselves out of holes right now for sure.
And there's guys that are wibbly wobbly. I look at Ross Chastain, someone who I thought was going to be a factor last weekend at Homestead. He was 31st. Ross Chastain at Homestead, 31st, 1 lap down. Like, that's not the track house that I come to expect when we go to some of these racetracks. We've seen Daniel Suarez have good performances here, and even Ross Chastain. Shane, I'm giving a little bit of pass, because I feel like he's still learning his elements of being a full-time driver. But like even Trackhouse has me a little bit miffed. Like, are they going to be okay?
Well, they had the great run at Las Vegas with 2 top 5s. And I think Suarez had a good run going at Homestead, Jamie, until he had issues. Didn't he have issues on pit road?
Yeah, I didn't have him in the race, so I don't know exactly what happened in the 99, but still, yeah, you're right. He finished 22nd. But Trackhouse, I think week in and week out, we're all kind of as a group thinking like, where are they? Like the speed just isn't there in what you expect. And sure, there's growing pains. They've expanded to a 3-car operation. They've had a lot going on, but it was great. I know it was a shot in the arm for Daniel Suarez and that team to finish 2nd at Vegas, but can they carry that through? Now we're getting into the short track circuit. We've got basically 3 short tracks in a row coming up. So I think there's a lot on the line for these guys to try to maximize those points. And the points thing is such an anomaly. We look at Ryan Blaney. Yes, he's had speed, but he's had 3 DNFs so far this season out of 6 races. But yet he's accumulated the most stage points of anybody.
Right.
And because of that, he's 10th in points. I think that's fascinating.
And I think at some point, like, kudos to Spire Motorsports for having the speed that they've had throughout the early part of the season. So but they've got to turn that speed into finishes, and they've struggled to do that. And I'm waiting, like Carson Hocevar, like it's not surprising to me anymore to see him qualify or start the race in the top 10. But what they've got to do, and I think they've had some opportunity to do that, but they haven't been able to finish it off, is they've got to turn that speed into long run performances so that they can put themselves and have an opportunity to not only contend for strong finishes, but obviously contend for the win.
At what point, Jamie, do you begin to panic? I mean, do you feel like Brad Keselowski, for instance, still has the ability to get a win at some point in time? You begin to wonder, we felt a year ago like Ty Gibbs was on the verge of a win. Now you're beginning to wonder if he could get a win, and he's got such a hole to climb out of that he can't get to you're beginning to wonder, I don't think he can get to the top 16.
I think Ty Gibbs is the biggest head scratcher to me. Every week, I'm just like, what happened? This time last year, all of us on Fox, I know you guys were doing the same thing. Like, this kid, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when he gets to victory lane. Like, he was knocking it out. He was running at the front. We were talking about him all the time. Well, then all of a sudden, it's like the last quarter of last year, things just fell apart. He couldn't get the finishes, couldn't find his way to the top 10, top 15. They make a crew chief change in the offseason. Nothing has changed. Like, they cannot find themselves. I don't know if it's something with Ty. I mean, we know the kind of equipment he has. Look at how his teammates are running. So that's a big head scratcher to me. And it's unfortunate, I think, because he is such a talented young man. I just don't know how your performance falls off that drastically when nothing has essentially changed except his crew chief, but the results are the same from the end of last year.
On the flip side, Chris, you've got Bubba Wallace right now is at the best position he's been in 6 races into the season. He's sitting 7th in points right now. Had a really good run at Homestead last week. He's been very consistent. You've also got, Josh Berry has been a great feel-good story, getting the win at Vegas. And I think, Phoenix and Vegas are really the 2 times that he's been rewarded for as good as he was running. I mean, I know I had his pit at Atlanta, and he had a great run going, but didn't get the finish to back it up. So, he's sitting 12th in points right now. And Chase Briscoe, who's been on this roller coaster up and down this year, he finally gets a good finish to go with his season, getting that 4th place at Homestead last week.
Well, I think Chase Briscoe was a great story coming out of Homestead. Bubba Wallace, I think Charles DeNike has been a breath of fresh air for him in 2025. And also, I think Bubba not getting into his head as much, right? I think he's more confident behind the wheel, and I think his ability, believing that he can go out there and do it and have the speed in the race car, I think has paid off for Bubba. I think he's worked very hard during the offseason. He told us that at Daytona during media day how hard he's worked, and I think his hard work is showing off. I want to see that continue throughout the whole season, right? It's one thing if you can keep it up in the early set of the season, but can you keep it all? And I think he can, especially if him and Tyler are running neck and neck. And I still, Chase Briscoe, I think we all expected for that to come, right? And I think it only continued to upward trek. Like Jamie said, Keselowski is a head scratcher to me. I'm hitting the panic button on Keselowski at Darlington. If he does not have a good performance at Darlington, then I'm hitting the panic button. I'm also hitting the panic button on Kyle Busch now, because I think that even with all the changes that RCR made, that I'm hitting the panic button now, because I just don't feel like that they're where they need to be as a power. They're not a powerhouse team right now, and they need to be a powerhouse team. But I think my biggest surprise, like you mentioned, Josh Berry, and I think Ryan Preece has overperformed in his first couple races for RFK. I think people expect him to not only contend for top 10s, but I think Ryan Preece has the ability to sneak up there and get a win or two before the end of the season.
Maybe Bubba got a pep talk from Morgan Freeman in Las Vegas.
Maybe he did. I love this subject of Bubba and Charles DeNike. I think this pairing is gold. I loved it from the beginning. Sure, I question it a little bit because Charles DeNike has never done the Cup Series. He's been in the Truck Series, did an amazing job. By the way, we're going to Martinsville, where his driver, his team, and Christian Eckes won both truck races there. So Charles knows how to figure out a setup for this place. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to the Cup car. And we know Bubba is good at Martinsville, but I think what Charles has done for Bubba already, I think he holds him to a standard, and he's like, you got to stay on it. I'm staying on my end of the bargain. You have to keep up your end of the bargain. Bubba, I talked to him pre-race at Vegas, and he's running all the time. He's like, I don't know who this person is, but I know I need to be doing it. And he's physically fit. He's in a great mental state. New father, I think that has been the biggest change for him. It's just set his mind at ease. I think given him confidence that he's lacked a little bit. And now he's seeing that he does have the speed, and they have a great relationship. I love that.
And one other guy that I wanted to spotlight, John Hunter Nemechek got off to a really fast start this year. The question is, can he keep it up? Well, we're 6 races in. He's still in the top 20 in points, which tells me, yeah, they're sustaining.
Well, he's not wrecking race cars, which I think, the biggest thing, and I think they even talked about it during the Fox broadcast on Sunday, but I think Kevin Harvick brought it up, is like John Hunter Nemechek's problem hasn't been speed. It's been his ability to finish races. And when you finish races, you can get solid finishes. And I think John Hunter's Nemechek's ability to do that in 2025 has paid off. Like to see it start happening for Eric Jones as well.
You feel the same way, Jamie? I mean, we're seeing maybe Legacy Motor Club turning things around.
Yes, I feel like they have all the pieces to the puzzle, even more so than last year. Just with Jimmy Johnson being their hands-on, I see Matt Kenseth at the track all the time. They brought in that investment group. They have the funds. They have the sponsors. They have everything they need. They changed a lot. A lot of personnel, new faces over there. I think they have all the parts to the puzzle. Now it's just a matter, like you said, of continuing the speed, but being able to finish races where you're starting. They have it all, but somebody like John Hunter Nemechek is interesting. I think that he overthinks things. This guy dives so deeply into all the data that is there that I think sometimes he goes too far, and he just needs to sit back and rely on what the car has in it and what he's capable of doing. And it's going to come. And with him finishing races, I think they're just going to get better.
When we come back, Martinsville up next. Stay with us.
Whether your engine runs daily or only when you need it, Z-Max Micro Lubricant is the force you need against carbon buildup that can damage your engine. Combustion causes carbon and other harmful deposits to build up in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. And carbon is like sandpaper rubbing against your engine's internal parts. You don't want that. You want Z-Max Micro Lubricant. It soaks into metal and keeps your vehicle running at peak performance. Find out more at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter. Protect your engine to the max with Z-Max.
Hi, it's PRN's Brad Gilly. Did you know you could take PRN with you anywhere? That's right. By downloading the PRN mobile app, you can listen to our live race broadcast from anywhere. Make sure you don't miss a second of the action from the track. Download today for station listings and on-demand access to your favorite studio shows like Fast Talk, The Pit Reporters, or Garage Pass. Get all the latest racing information at your fingertips with the PRN mobile app. Download today, available in the Apple App Store and on Google Play.
Mark Garrow's your host for Garage Pass, here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Where's his place in all of this?
So I look at Jimmy Johnson, and maybe I have a little bit different perspective because I grew up with Richard Petty while he was winning all of his championships and stuff. And it was tough. It's tough to win championships. I mean, so many great drivers, as we go back in time, won lots of races and never won championships. So many great drivers won lots of races, never won Daytona. Those big moments, they just couldn't get over that hump. So to win 7, no matter how you win 7, is amazing. I believe, and I have said this a million times on a million different occasions, Jimmy Johnson's 5 in a row is the most underrated record in all of sports. It gets very little attention. Very little attention. We talk about Tiger Woods winning all these majors. We talk about Michael Jordan and LeBron James. You talk about everything that Richard Petty has done, everything Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s done. 5 in a row. Nobody's done 5 in a row.
Brett McMillan returns with more of the Pit Reporters here on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back. Jamie Little's here and Chris Knight is here. And Jamie, I got one prediction from Martinsville. We will not see any blocking late in the race by a bunch of Chevys.
I hope not.
No, I think that's pretty safe to say that race interference, that is not happening here. And I guess, that's a good thing, right? We want him to race straight up and no race manipulation or anything like that. I would say another thing is Blaney's going to turn his luck around here. This is a great place for him. Top 7 the last 6 races here, including the last 2 fall races that got him into the championship. And I think a lot of things are going to turn around here. But I don't know about Brad Keselowski accelerating. I am not sure yet.
I'd say wait till Darlington. Then we can regroup back. We can regroup back. Look, I think it's going to be warmer, I think, than we've been in the past in the spring at Martinsville this weekend. And so I'm curious to see how that transitions for the racing. I hope it's we're going to have the same tire we had there last fall. I'm just hoping for a good race. I feel like that we are making strides with the short track package, and I just hope it's a good race for the fans. I know that the truck race will be under the lights. The Xfinity race will probably end under the lights, and with it being a little bit warmer for the Cup race, not super hot, but warmer than it usually is this time of year. I expect it to be a solid race on Sunday. At least I hope for it to be.
I talked in the tease about the fact that Hendrick's top 3 in points, and Hendrick has just an unbelievable track record at Martinsville. But they didn't win last fall. That was a Blaney show. But Byron has won there. It's obviously Chase Elliott has won there. Their track record is unbelievable at Martinsville. Do we feel like this could be another Hendrick show, Jamie? Or you mentioned Blaney, who won there last fall.
Yeah, I mean, you can't count them out. What they did last spring was unbelievable, finishing first, second, and third. Hendrick's big celebration. All of their employees were there. I mean, it was a magical day for them. We know they're so good. They're lights out there. So I would not put it past Kyle Larson, maybe even Chase Elliott to turn things around. I mean, Chase, we haven't talked a whole lot about him. It's not that they've been bad, they've been there. Just not performing and finishing like we expect them to. And I think this would be a great place for them to turn things around. But Blaney, I know he'll be tough to beat. There's, Denny Hamlin. He came on strong last week. You never know at Martinsville. We don't talk about Denny Hamlin enough and what he's done around this place over the years. So that's another one that could take full advantage.
I think it was Chase Elliott's race to lose. Last fall, last time we were there, Ryan Blaney put his Superman cap and it was Superman cape and it was game over. But otherwise, Chase Elliott probably would have won that race. So I agree with Jamie. It's a good place for Chase Elliott. But there's gonna be guys that want to disrupt the Hendrick Motorsports mojo there, and with an opportunity with the a potential playoff spot on the line. I think this was a great track for Josh Berry. I think Josh Berry can easily find himself in the mix and maybe get his second win of the season. I think Bubba Wallace is another one. And, Ryan Preece has a pretty good track. He's an exceptional short track racer, and he's a former pole sitter at Martinsville. So I would not put it past me for Ryan Preece to put himself in the mix and become a surprise winner on Sunday.
Do you see this as a potential place, Jamie, where things get maybe overly aggressive, that some of these guys who we've talked about that have not been running particularly well, have not had the start of the season that they expected to have, that they really take advantage of it being a short track, that they don't have the speed that they need, so we're now at a place where speed isn't necessarily that important?
Absolutely. That's what we love about short track racing, right? It leads to short tempers. And these guys that need those points, those valuable points each stage, I feel like elbows are up and we're going to see a lot of moving of other drivers. We see that a lot. That's why people love short track racing. And you're going to see more of that in Bristol in 2 weeks. So absolutely take advantage when you can. It's all about getting those points early on for those guys who are in a hole. But I love this place. It's so physical. It's hard on these drivers to drive. It's physically demanding. It's hard to set your car up. It's hard to get it right. And then the physical element of just beating and banging off each other. It's fantastic.
And it's 100 laps shorter than the fall version. And I think that will play in the hands too, especially if we get a green-white checkered. I think it being 100 laps short, you don't have, if you have a problem, you don't have the extra 100 laps to recover from. So you have to go, I feel like, on Sunday once that green flag drops. And if you have a problem, you better have it before the end of stage one, because otherwise it's going to be hard to pass on Sunday. It always is at Martinsville. But that's where someone like Ryan Preece or Josh Berry or even, of course, Carson Hocevar, who's not going to be afraid to use that bumper and get away to escape, and maybe that leads them to their first win.
Well, but Jamie, you mentioned a guy that I was thinking about is Denny Hamlin. He always seems to run well at these Virginia races, both Richmond and Martinsville. And, he's had a couple of decent runs this year, but he hasn't made that trip to victory lane yet. Christopher Bell's got 3 wins this year. He's not too bad at Martinsville either. But I can see Hamlin really taking advantage of the opportunity if he can get it this week.
Aren't we creeping up on a year since Denny last won? I mean, that's pretty hard to believe. And I know he keeps track of that stuff. So this would be a great place for him to turn it around. And obviously he had a 5th place run at Homestead, and you could just see it. I interviewed him afterwards, like happy, relieved, like it just feels good to be, finishing a race where you expect to run. And obviously with his new crew chief, Chris Gale, they're still getting used to each other, trying to figure out exactly the dynamic, exactly what Denny likes in his car. And there's a lot that goes into that in adjusting. He doesn't have Chris Gabehart that he knows, like, all right, we got this set up, we're going in, this is how it's going to go. There's a lot of different elements. And I think some of that could be good, right? They could come with a winning setup and Denny gets back to victory lane. So I'll definitely be watching that 11 team.
Chris?
Yeah, I think Denny can't be, I don't think you can count him out wherever we go, right? Just whether or not he has the car that can lift him to the front. And I think Sunday's as good a chance as any from Denny. He tends to get more boos at Martinsville than we're accustomed to seeing over the years. Used to be all cheers, and now it's a kind of a mix of both. But look, Denny's hungry to win, and I think he showcased that. He's talked about it on a regular basis. And when push comes to shove, Denny Hamlin isn't going to care about who he's moving either if he's got to win a race. And I think he's in a lot better position. I think maybe now that they got that huge sponsorship with Progressive Insurance, I think the elements are all there now for that 11 team to go out there and perform and not have to worry about whether or not they're going to have anything on the car the rest of the season.
He seems to be inspired by the booze instead.
Well, I mean, it motivates him, right? He
Yep.
says it. He says it motivates him, and so hey, if haters be motivators, good for him.
White flag laps ahead. Stay with us.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive. As you might imagine, I know a thing or two about cars, and I'm here to tell you about a whole new way to buy a car, truck, or SUV. Did you know that Echo Park Automotive has over 95,000 five-star reviews? On top of that, every car that Echo Park Automotive sells goes through a 190-point inspection to make sure that it looks and drives like new, so you leave happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
It's not about the cars, the speed, the action. It's not about the party or the long weekend. It's about them, the ones that gave everything. This Memorial Day weekend, we honor the fallen at America's Home for Racing.
The 66th running of the Coca-Cola 600.
Lenny Baticki brings you PRN at the Track every week here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
If you have a chance to make a difference in a kid's life, you need to take full advantage of that opportunity.
For those kids to know somebody has their back, somebody is caring about them, thinking about them when they feel like nobody is.
Anything that I can do now to support Speedway Children's Charities, I do because I've seen the work firsthand.
We owe it to children, no matter where they come from.
Unfortunately, there is no end to some of the terrible atrocities in our world. Speedway Children's Charities can feel really good that we are getting the most good out of every dollar that's given. At Speedway Children's Charities,
our mission
is simple.
Help every child we can.
Because all children
deserve joy
and hope
and love.
And if one child is still in need,
then there's still work to do.
Because their future is our future.
And there's still so much they can teach us.
Find out more at speedwaycharities.org. We're back with more of the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And it's time now for our white flag laps. And first up from Fox Sports, it's Jamie Little.
Well, Brett, we talked a lot about Penske and the problems that Blaney's had. When you look at their finishes this year, between the three teams, they only have one top five to show for their efforts. That's shocking to me. However, when you look at laps led, they lead the category. First, second, and third. Those three drivers have led more laps than anybody else this season. That tells me the speed is there, the pace is there. At Martinsville, I think the drought comes to an end. The luck turns. Ryan Blaney goes back to victory lane, and he wins his third race at Martinsville.
But you know, Jamie, last year at this time, we were wondering if Ford would ever win a race.
That's true.
And wait till Darlington.
Yeah. That's right. Next up from catchfence.com, it's Chris Knight.
Mine's short and sweet this week. I just want to applaud all the series in NASCAR, the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. I think we've seen amazing storylines at these races every week. We haven't seen somebody come out other than Christopher Bell in the Cup Series, but as far as Trucks and Xfinity Series is concerned, we've seen drivers come and go and battle for the win. I just think the racing so far this year has been phenomenal, and I hope it continues because this sport thrives on momentum, and I love the momentum that the sport's heading in, and I hope we have a good weekend. The weather looks good for Martinsville, so I hope we have a packed house for all three races.
Always fun show at Martinsville, no doubt about it. Well, we talked in the show earlier about the fact that earlier this season, like in Atlanta, the guys were saying, when we get to this stretch of Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Homestead, we're going to have a better idea of what we have. Well, some folks are pretty happy with what they have. Some folks, not so much. Now we're going to a stretch of three races at traditional tracks, the old traditional tracks, Martinsville, Darlington, Bristol. We're really going to find out more about what guys have. Short track, Darlington, class unto itself, and then Bristol. Now guys have an opportunity to make up some ground. With the short track we talked about, it could be a little more aggressive. Same thing with Bristol. Darlington, we'll see. That's where Brad Keselowski picked up a win last year. Everybody loves the more traditional track and 100 miles shorter than the Southern 500. 3 more weeks, we'll answer a lot more questions when this stretch is over with. Jamie, real quickly, who do you like at Martinsville this week?
Well, I like the Blaney aspect, but honestly, if I'm not going from, what I'd like to see or an emotional kind of win, you got to go with Larson.
All right.
Join us again next week for the Pit Reporters on PRN,
Bowman,
the Performance Racing Network.